Talk real estate. Hey!
I love it.
This is where we come together once a month. That is not showing anything. Okay, just keep looking at him. Okay, this is where we come together once a month to really talk about answer. We go deep on one question: how do you use real estate as a wealth creation tool? And so every month, what we do is we get some of the best and brightest minds in and around Massachusetts to come to talk about how to do that. So this week is no different. Actually, this month is no different. We have John Foligno from Cross Country Mortgage. Thank you, John, for coming
Thanks,
and
Dexter. Appreciate it.
hanging out with us. And so, what we're going to be talking about really is, as you guys know, in January every year, what we try to do is set the table. So, position you. So there'll be two types of conversations going on today. So, if you are a first-time home buyer, you've never bought you don't own anything. You living with mama.
It's not a bad thing.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, but you trying to get out of the house. You trying to get you out. We want to talk to you about that, and then also we'll talk some investor stuff too. But John is someone I've known probably close to 10 years now. So we met when I was working with Willie Mandrell some time ago, and then I don't think he and I have been in a room together in a long time. We've had phone conversations, but nothing like that. So John, why don't you look in that camera and tell the people who you are, who you represent, and then we'll go from there.
How you guys doing today? So I'm John Foligno. I am a branch manager with Cross Country Mortgage. I manage the new location that we have right in Quincy, so right in the South Shore, which is where I was born and raised. So we are close to home. Cross Country is a retail mortgage lender founded in 2003 and is one of the fastest, largest growing retail mortgage companies out there. Almost up to about 7,000 employees now, and about 600 branch locations licensed all throughout the U.S. and all 50 states. So, we can pretty much do the majority of states, or all the states that come through the door, and have a big array and platform to offer, to our clients. Myself, I've been in the industry for, going on 14 years now. Wow. And I know Dexter said he's known me for about 10, and it goes quick. But been in the industry for 14 years, started out with MetLife Home Loans. That division shut down, and our entire group bounced to a few other companies in between. But here we are, and here we've landed on one of the best, lending platforms in the country. So excited to be here. It's been about a year since we've come over. So.
Well, let's jump right into it. So one of the things I wanted John to talk about is really to get someone who wants to buy their first property, get them positioned. So John, what are some of the things that they would need to do in order to come sit with somebody like yourself?
Yeah, so obviously if there's interest there to purchase a house, the first thing to do would be to have you get pre-approved or get in touch with a loan officer such as myself or anyone in our branch location, and figure out what it is that you're looking to do. So where you're looking to buy, what you're looking to buy, figure out the majority of your financing. How much do you have to put into a situation? How much money do I have to put down? How much money do I even need to purchase a house? Like, what can I do? And a lot of times people have very little knowledge. They haven't even gone online. They've just been referred over. Other people have spent numerous days researching and just watching tutorials and whatnot. And you can go down a rabbit hole and find a bunch of information, some of which is very good, some of which is also very bad. So yeah, what I can suggest and recommend is definitely get in touch with someone that is, knowledgeable professional, been in the industry for a while. That way you can ensure that you're just getting sound information, sound advice, and to not go kind of down the wrong path.
Right, and I think that's the part where I see a lot of people get in trouble is that number one, they do go to YouTube University. Ain't nothing wrong with YouTube, because that's a great starting point. But you can't go down this rabbit hole, and so you have all these misconceptions about what you really need to do. And I think a lot of times you can get overwhelmed because you get too much information and you freeze. And so part of what we have always talked about is whether you're looking to become an investor or whether you're looking to buy your first time home, is you got to get started. Mm-hmm. That's one of our mantras here, is that everything happens as you get in action. And so I found in doing this for a little bit, so whether as an investor or whether I've counseled people, they've become so intimidated that they never make the phone call, they never come and sit down with someone like yourself. And so I think that's the key is getting out of the gate and getting the information and gathering. And I think as you do that, you'll be get more confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting in touch, like I said, with the right person. And not every loan officer is going to work for every single client or buyer that comes in the door. And it's again, it might take a few conversations. You can tell off the bat if someone's gelling,
Right.
if the flow is easy, it's back and forth, it's comfortable. And that's what I always want for my clients is, listen, it's got to work for you and it's got to work for me. Like I want you to want to work with me. If it works both ways, it's a comfortable dialogue and it makes it very comfortable. It's warming. So when you do call up, you don't feel intimidated. Like
Right.
I wouldn't show up wearing a suit because that's not who I am. I don't want you to feel as if I'm a high finance guy because I'm not. I'm simply someone who's living just the same you are. I have a wife, I have kids, I have a house, I have, been fortunate enough to have another property in Maine, so I do have some real estate.
Right.
But there's always going to be someone who has more, so the comparative lifestyle that I think that we're trapped in today is what is intimidating. But people shouldn't feel intimidated. If you have, decent credit, even if you have bad credit and you want to fix it, people
Right.
can come and we can do that. So like any situation is unique to the individual. So we always encourage those to show up and give me your information. Let me kind of evaluate it and advise based on what I see. And again, like I'm only coming from a position of I want to help those that want to help themselves. So if people,
Right.
Want to help themselves, I'm here and I'm a tool for them. So it's
Right. And I think that's what you like. Well, my wife and I have used John personally. He helped us when we were coming out of our finance out of hard money to a loan that we did. And so I recommend. Then I also recommend it to a couple other people who've used you as well. And so when I let them know you were coming, they said they enjoyed working with John. So John comes very highly recommended. So if you ever need some sort of product, whether you're here or whether you're out there, he really you're looking at, even though he's at another company, you're really going with a person.
exactly, you nailed it there.
Yeah. You're going with a person. So whether he's at Cross Country Mortgage or whether he's at ABCD Mortgage, you really are with the person. And then obviously it just depends on what product and service they offer. But really, you're looking for a person that you have a great relationship with, and you're looking for someone you can partner with long term.
Exactly. I don't just look for that deal at that time. All my deals and transactions are based, really off of the end result, meaning the referrals that come after the fact. Right. So if we go 99% of the way, and at the end of it, something happens or comes up, it kind of kills the deal for me because I want everything to go smooth. I want there to be that good feeling at the end, so everyone's happy. They walk away with a good taste in their mouth, and they do refer. But you have to pair yourself up with someone, again, that you do trust and that you do know, because it really does. And again, I'm not there for that deal. It's what comes after. It's the relationship. It's the rapport that I try to establish and get with every client, even from a pre-approval standpoint, because it could be 2 years, 3 years. Right. It could be 6 months. It could move quick, but a lot of times there is that dialogue back and forth. There are multiple phone calls and emails and estimates and conversations that happen that do come up. And again, that's where you need to find that person that's going to do that for you, that's going to be there when you call, that's going to have the time, that's going to show you the time, whether you're buying, a $250,000 condo or whether you're buying, a high-end, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter. To me, I just was telling Dexter earlier, I just want to help people that want to be helped. So it doesn't matter about price point or how much you have or don't have. It's just about meeting the client's needs and expectations for the transaction.
And I would say one of the things that I've loved of working with you, you're very responsive. And in this industry, people out there maybe can attest to this. Sometimes people don't return phone calls, or it's it's like I may call them on Tuesday. I'm getting a call on Friday. I'm like, well, dude, I called you Tuesday, and it's 3 days later, and the question I had or what I needed at that time, that ship has sailed.
It's tough. Communication is obviously important in an industry where it is super time sensitive. You have listings that will go up, and you have we're looking at this property, and you don't have the luxury of time. You need to be prepared. You need to be pre-approved. You need to have seen numbers and estimates, so you are knowing on a conservative basis, monthly payment, potential interest rate, total cash out of pocket, all the important stuff. You know it on a conservative basis. That way, when the property does come up, you're not waiting anymore. You're already sitting there saying, hey, here's our offer, here's our $1,000 deposit check.
Exactly.
But that's the easy part. That's getting pre-approved, like doing your due diligence, getting the application filled out, going out there, seeing the properties. But it's up to the sellers. Unfortunately, it's up to the seller. So like, and you're stacked up against one offer to the next, and you can get into a chess match, and this is where real estate can become, the tough part, where you have so many loan officers, you have so many agents, and just putting an offer together, a lot of people can do that, and that's not necessarily all that's involved. There's conversation, there's experience, there's structuring an offer, there's presenting your client in a good light, for the seller to say, hey, listen, my client is the most attractive, and here's why. It's having the ability to do that. Some agents do, some agents don't. But it's also presenting the information to the client, not just saying, hey, you got to waive all your contingencies, because it's not their money, it's not my money, so I can't tell you to waive an inspection or a financing contingency or an appraisal unless you are aware and understand what it means if one of those things, comes into play.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will say one of the things that I've also, because I'm also licensed as an agent, I don't do it much, but I am, and there are times that I've been with my person who trains me, and he was like, well, I'm not working with this person because they're a loan officer. And so not only is the agent, but it's also the officer, and how well the seller's agent works with the loan officer is also a major factor. We've turned, because we sold a couple houses in New Bedford, and the guy was like, I'm not dealing with this guy because I know that loan officer, or I know that company, and they're
company name,
close, and it's just like
loan officer reputation, all that stuff does matter, and that's why it is important that all deals do go according to plan, and you do everything that you can, from myself and my team, to make sure that the deal does go smooth, it does move along, so you do have that good experience. And listen, we are human, things do happen, but how do you react? How do you bounce back? How do you make up? And what do you do when things do go awry? Because it is real estate, it is lending, and it is not perfect. Things come up that are unforeseen, and how do you pivot? And that's what makes a good team, not only on the lending side, but for your attorney, for your agent, for all intents and purposes, everyone is trying to get the same end result. So I'm not trying to deter or slow this deal up by any means. I need all the help we can get, and if we all pull in the same direction, we can get there. I'm not trying to shoot holes in anyone's plans here. We're just trying to get it done.
Well, I always like to say the goal is to get to the closing table. Get the keys, and it's a lot between, like you said, the offer going in, and then there's just a whole bunch of other things. You have your part, the lawyer has his part, but then the person you're working with has their part, because you're asking for certain documents and so on and so forth, and if people drag their feet and not getting you the documents, your hands are tied.
Yes. So we do have a good group, and we are experienced in getting loans done. And again, like, we have all our in-house processing and underwriting, which some people have to outsource to corporate. So we do have our hands on your file. If something, hey, we can call the underwriter up, we can call our processing up, because we've worked with them for years, and there's a good relationship and rapport there. Again, it's a good team. Our core has been together, since the majority of MetLife, and we've just grown and expanded. We've got about 20 people in our group amongst 3 different locations, between Boston, the Quincy branch that I manage, and West Roxbury. So it was a small nucleus to start, and we've grown, but it's on on a great platform, and it's going to allow us to do some pretty good things. But yeah, it's it's being with the right people.
Well, give me a sense of what you're saying, because we were sort of talking off camera. Give me a sense of what you're seeing in the market, and what people are doing to have some sort of level of success.
Yeah, so it is a competitive market out there right now, and the tough part is that interest rates, they are coming down, so that is a good thing, that is a plus. But they were high. You're looking at rates in the low eights, and it was still competitive. So those with money, those deals that work, those properties that are worth selling and or buying, if there's buyers out there, there's going to be competition. Okay, so it's still a competitive market out there. People are still waiving contingencies and going after things, but everything is so expensive right now. Consumer goods are expensive. So with high interest rates, with daily expenses being high, I think there are still some people who are still holding back. But just because you're sitting on the sidelines doesn't mean that that's necessarily a good thing, because rates are high. Because if you hold off too long, okay, let's just say rates are in the high 6s right now, okay? And you go out and you're sitting back saying, no, I'm not going to buy that house for $400,000. I'm going to wait till rates drop into the 5s, okay? But that same house might be worth $450. So you have some level of appreciation. So if you had bought at $400, you would have purchased it at $400. Then you can refinance again. You have all that equity, lower monthly payment. If it's a rental, you're talking about additional cash flow. So, like I said, sidelines don't necessarily equate to saving money. Getting into the real estate yesterday is always a good opportunity if the deal makes sense.
If it makes sense.
If the payment is okay. And again, you're not stuck with that rate. You can refinance. And when we're in an environment where rates are coming down, the majority of people who did purchase or that are purchasing or will continue to purchase will have an opportunity to refinance and to get themselves a lower monthly payment, additional cash flow, save on interest. So, now is a good time,
Right.
Per se, but it's got to be the right time for the buyer. It's got to make sense. That's a big thing, and that's always individual, but you have to be ready for it when the time comes.
And I think what you said is I had this conversation with someone the other day, and I think a lot of people are sitting on the sideline because they're like, okay, interest rates are high. Now, going back to where we were like a couple years ago, those are historically low rates. We ain't never going. We probably will, in our lifetime, we will probably never go back to 2s and 3s and so on and so forth. But what that did was that spoiled us.
Yes.
And so people are like, well, I'm waiting to go back to that. I'm like, well, you're going to be waiting a long time. Well, and the thing about this, because John just gave you guys a nugget, is this, both here and out there in TVville. You're waiting for interest rates to go down, but it's not like how home prices are going down too.
Yep.
So as you're waiting for it to go down, home prices are doing this, and so you're still going to be out of the game because you're still priced out. And so to your point of, and I don't know how you feel about this quote that I hear all the time. A lot of people say, well, buy the house but date the rate. What I mean? And I'm gonna get the house, but then I can always go back and refinance and do those type of things. And so, and to your point, the numbers always have to make sense, no matter when you're buying. But if you can, and I think a lot of people are frozen, not making moves now, and some can make moves.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. People with money will continue to go out there, but it's not only the money, but the willingness to get out there, to make that step, to take that that engagement into actually buying the house. But it's getting in touch with the loan officer, getting things kind of in motion, and it's just it's
because of this is what I'm telling you guys out here. This is a marathon. Believe me, you will look at tons and tons and tons. Did I say tons? And tons of homes. I'm thinking about back when my wife and I bought our second house in 2005. Man, she looked at probably like, if you notice, I said she looked at that. Because during the first 10, I'm like, I'm done. Just bring me to the one you really want. And I'll go on that one.
And what year was this?
This is 2005.
Okay, so the diligence that you had to go out.
We looked at, probably 40 houses between, Dorchester, Mattapan. We ended up selling in Hyde Park.
Oh my God.
Quincy. You were just looking. And so I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's going to take some legwork. So it's going to take some legwork. I think coming to a guy like you is easy now. I got to go find something. That's where the challenge comes in that. And this is some time ago. I was sitting with a person, and she said, Dexter, I've looked at 30 houses. I'm just like, well, look at 30 more. And then she stopped looking for a while, and then her agent called her back and said, hey, look, let's get back into the game. And then she ended up buying a house in Brockton. But, she had gotten discouraged, and I'm just like, because what we're doing is, we're building wealth. Building wealth is not easy. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. And so as we're talking about what are the things that's going to set us apart from the other person, one thing that's going to set us apart is we got to have some diligence, we got to have some persistence. There has to be some stick-to-itiveness to you, which will allow you to be able to finally get the keys and be like, I'm a homeowner or I'm an investor. But if you quit after I went to 2 houses, come on, man.
It is a marathon, and you nailed it there. And I do see quite a bit is, even so, like when the property does go under agreement, just because the property's under agreement, you haven't closed on the house. It's not your house. There are still so many checks and balances that need to incur, even inspections that fail. Yes. You don't even get, started. You barely get the wheels in motion, and the deal's falling apart. Now, I even say to people, and this is kind of brings me to another point that I just thought of, is, if you do have a bad inspection on a piece of real estate, before you even get to that inspection, you've done one good thing. You got the property under agreement.
Okay.
Congratulations to the agent. Right. Kudos to the LO, and for getting everyone to that point. But now let's make this deal work. Now, if the inspection comes back and it's terrible, and there's thousands and thousands of dollars, so you can't bridge the gap, and there's no way to get a seller credit or for the seller to offer to fix it, it might be worth your time and money to potentially try and make a greater effort to bridge that gap and
Okay.
to avoid or to get over the inspection, to have things fixed, because you have the property under agreement now.
Right.
So don't let a few $1,000s, and again, it's situational. If the situation works, if you have the cash, if you don't have the cash, however it is, don't let that inspection necessarily deter you from that property. If you can figure out a way to get by or to get through it, it may benefit you greatly financially in the form of the appreciation,
Right.
in the form of lower interest rates down the line because you got it at a lesser rate. Whereas if you had, let's say I just had a house, and this is the scenario I'm thinking of, they didn't have heat on the second floor of a single family cape. So they walked up, it felt a little bit cooler to them, and they didn't realize that there was no actual formal vent or heating source on the second floor. So just the residual heat that rose from the bottom, but for conventional financing, the appraiser goes out to the property and they note that there's no controllable heat source on the second floor unit or level of the house. So how do we fix that now? So if the seller's going to have that issue with all conventional buyers going forward, he's either going to fix it on his own or say, hey, listen, we'll kick in a seller credit to fix it. And what I told the agent at the time was to put in electric baseboard heat, which is probably the most cost-effective thing to do as far as timing is concerned versus a mini split or additional, whatever it may be to get a different heating source there. And the deal fell apart. Now, I thought that they were going to make it work and it was going to come together, but
It fell apart.
at the end of the day, it fell apart. And it's just in that scenario, and again, like it has to be where you're comfortable and what you want. So I can't push you to do something, but I would encourage that if you do hit a bad inspection, because you do work so hard to get that property under agreement, don't just let it go over a smaller issue that pops up. Try to bridge the gap, try to fix it, because you've already done the work, your agent's done the work, maybe you've seen 50 houses, and you're done. And don't let something small deter.
And I think that's where your team comes in at, where somebody like yourself can talk you through it, and then if your agent has maybe, hey, I got a contractor too who can do this fairly simply for you, can talk it through some things. And so we always talk about real estate being a team sport. And that I think when people, I always say, listen, you need to build your team like now, and always be adding to your team. I believe in the Noah's Ark theory, you need 2 or 3 everything. And so, I know 2 or 3 lenders, I know 2 or 3 contractors, I'm actually know a lot more contractors, but I'm always looking to add because of what you and I talked about earlier offline was, things change. People retire, people move, people get out the industry, and so you're always needing, and then sometimes the people that you're dealing with may not have the products and services that you need for this particular deal, and so I got to have a plethora of people that I can tap into.
And we'd like to highlight that early too. If someone comes to me and they need something specifically and I don't offer that, the last thing I want to do is encourage them to fill out an application, take their time up, my team's time, only to say, hey, we can't help you out, go see this guy, or I don't know what to tell you. No, I want to evaluate your situation with a phone call or whatever information that I have, and then if I can't help you, I'm going to point you in the best direction. And again, I'd never leave you hanging. I'm going to put you in touch with a contact so I know you're getting good service and that you go to someone, because I don't refer very easily. It takes a lot for me to send a name out because my name is attached to it.
Exactly.
So if Dexter's sending out a name and this name is running amok, it's not going to look good on Dexter. So and the same goes for any referral that you make. And again, that's why I'm very sensitive to it. So, if I do refer out to my clients, to anyone out there, like it's a solid contact that I know and trust and I have probably used personally over the years.
Yeah. So talk about, because you use the term conventional a few times. So somebody who may not know the difference between conventional, other type of loans. Talk a little bit about
so
that.
there are many types of loans, types of financing out there. The most common you would see would be conventional financing, and it has to do with loan size and based on property type. If it's a single family, multifamily, and there's different loan amounts for different products, whether it's conventional financing, FHA, but there's just different thresholds that would go. But with each particular set of financing that's being offered, there are different guidelines, so nuances. So it's not the same for everything. It's not a cookie cutter for every single product that we offer. And every client is different. So credit score, income levels, down payment, asset, all that stuff comes into play and essentially allows me to fit them into a specific bucket and say, hey, listen, you're going to be best, suited with this particular product, whether it's conventional because maybe the credit score is a little bit higher, or if the credit score was a little bit less, maybe you would have a lower monthly payment if you went with FHA financing because they're a little bit more lenient. They allow you to get away with things such as a lesser credit score. But again, then we can get into the chess match of structuring your offer and presenting it
Okay.
to sellers. And there might be a benefit or a reason for you to go with one program or another because it makes your offer more attractive to the seller.
Exactly.
So not only is
Right.
the real estate game, finding the best product,
Right.
but it is a chess match to get in, and you might sometimes have to utilize a specific product to give yourself a better foot forward to allow yourself to be distinguished
Right. Got
or
it.
separated
Got
from
it.
the other offers on the table.
Because I'm thinking about a lot of times if I'm dealing with someone and I just say I'm the seller and I'm looking at someone who's looking to buy it, I'm looking at, okay, FHA has more, if I'm not trying to tell you your business,
Yep.
but I'm thinking from what I've experienced, FHA may put you through more hoops versus a conventional. Is that sort of kind of maybe?
It would depend on the property. So the sellers are kind of on the hook here, a seller's agent. So they're in charge of working with the seller and accepting that offer.
Right.
So as a seller's agent, if they don't know and understand how conventional financing is going to look at that particular property, if they don't know how FHA is going to view that particular property, and all they're looking at is the offer amount, the dollar amount on that offer,
Exactly.
they might pull the highest offer because they're going to make their seller the most amount of money, but the property could be 753 decker, but it could be in bad shape, peeling paint, and it doesn't qualify for FHA because it doesn't meet the minimum property standard. So FHA comes with minimum property standards. So they want to see that the property is in good working, order. All the utilities are on and functioning. It's habitable. There's no health or safety issues. No mold, mildew, peeling paint, even cracked windows, cracked tiles, worn flooring I've seen come up. Bad roofs or just rotten trim boards, sill boards, or soffits. Like they're going to call out, and the appraiser, when they go out to the property, they're FHA, certified appraiser, and they're looking for the minimum standards to be met. So as a seller, if you don't understand and realize what minimum is, you could accept an offer, the appraisal comes back, and now we have to fix
This checklist.
you got thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So it's not always, the highest price that's presented from a buyer to the seller.
Okay.
It can be a mix of the highest price with a product that waived a certain number of contingencies or one or two contingencies. And again, you don't know what motivates a seller. I can say personally, we wrote letters when we did, and I know that's discouraged kind of now.
Nowadays,
so it's just, and again, that's where your agent can come in and your LO, because I encourage my agents to tell the sellers when they do submit that offer, have them give me a call. Like, I'm happy to connect with them and tell them how great of a buyer my client is and how good of a job that my branch does, my team does, just to give them some bit of confidence to accept the offer and have no hesitations, and let's do the deal. But again, that comes with someone who's been in the industry, that's been around the block a time or two, that has a name and a good rep, and it takes time and it takes years and to build that, and it is important and helpful when buyers are navigating this market.
Right. Good stuff. Let's pause for a second. Any questions out here in the audience, you guys?
Well, the question I have is, you stated with the FHA.
Hold on one second. Vanessa, who has the microphone for Vanessa? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
You stated the FHA loan has the minimum property standards. What does the conventional, do they have a particular standard for certain things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, that's when you're out there looking, it's good to know these things so you can kind of take a property that might fit in one bucket or the other, and you just start to go down that path. But as far as FHA, they have the minimum property standards, as I mentioned. Conventional financing wants to ensure that the property has all its utilities on and they are functioning, and that it is habitable, that there aren't any major health and safety concerns. But peeling paint, cracked windows, things that would get picked apart through the eyes, knowing that the appraiser's going out there because it is an FHA loan. Conventional financing is your saving grace, but it's, again, up to the client based on credit score, based on monthly payment and all these details, qualifying ratios, why you might be going FHA versus conventional. So like in that scenario where, maybe the intention was to start out a loan going FHA, something popped up that didn't meet minimum standards, sellers weren't willing to fix it, but buyer did qualify for conventional financing. It just came with a slightly higher interest rate, which led to a slightly higher monthly payment, but they wanted the property, they wanted to overcome the minimum standard gap, so we switch the financing, they go conventional because they are more lenient and don't require, as tight a house, per se. And
Exactly.
it's being insured by the federal government, so they want to ensure that the property that they're lending on is in good shape.
Yeah, solid. Yeah,
And that's,
solid.
for their buyers, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But, when you talk about real estate and getting a deal done, it's just something to know and to think of, and you have to work with and navigate. So, and some agents don't understand it, they don't know it, so they'll show a property and they're not looking.
Right.
They want to know if their client is an FHA potential client. So when you're showing certain houses, you're under the intention that, hey, this is great, but we need to look out for this. It's going to
Right.
come up. So when we present that offer, my client's got this offer, it's FHA, and they try to get a feel for where the best price point should be when they go in, contingencies. I noticed that this is an issue up here. It's probably going to get called out, Is there something that we can potentially do in the event it does come up? The seller's willing to kick in maybe a seller credit to help fix, because it has to be fixed and repaired prior to closing.
Prior to
It's
closing.
not something after closing. We have to ensure that it's closed, because that's the asset that we're lending on, and we have to adhere to FHA and their guidelines.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm looking at a distressed property that's going to need to be fixed up, what they call a fix and flip, is there a specific loan for something like that? Do I have to come as an investor with 25% of the total amount? How would I go about that?
So, great question again, and we have any product that you essentially would need to navigate that scenario, whether you were buying it as a straight-up investment property,
Okay.
whether you were buying it as a primary residence to go and live in. So based on the intention or the purpose which you were buying, again, for a primary or for a straight-up investment property, that would then prompt me to say, listen, based on a primary residence, we can offer a whole different, array of product with better pricing,
Right.
because you're occupying it as
living
your
there.
primary residence.
You're
And that's
living
always going to get you the most attractive rates and financing out there, is when you do buy and purchase as a primary residence. And that's not to say that a single family can't be an investment at some point, but when you're buying that multi or whatever it is, it's an investment from
Yeah,
day
exactly.
one, when you walk in. But any real estate, whether you're renting it or not, you're still investing into that piece of real estate, you're appreciating and gaining. So back to the question is, depending on your intent of occupancy, would determine what loan I would essentially put you in. And if it's from the investment standpoint, that's when you get into the higher down payment, that 25% plus down, versus the primary residence, products. If that's the intent, you can get away with things that are 3.5% down, 3% down. They're just, it's a lot more flexible, less cash out of
Right.
pocket to walk in the door when it's for the primary intention.
Yeah. And I think that's what we recommend people. I mean, that's what we started. We bought a 3-family in Dorchester. It was our first,
Yeah.
piece of property. We sold it, unfortunately, but that's a whole other story. In hindsight, which is always 20/20, we would have kept it. But that was what the goal was. And the word you kept using was, "What's your intention?" And so, as we're talking about in this class, we're talking about being strategic and what I'm looking to do and be intentional. And so, because one of the biggest pushbacks I get a lot of times, Dexter, I don't want to be a landlord. I'm just like, well, we're talking about building wealth here. So, and you said it earlier, it can be, I can do that for a period of time. And then if I want to, I can transition myself onto something else. And so I think, as we're talking about building wealth, is all about being strategic and having a partner like yourself and other people who say, hey, John, I want to get in here for the lowest amount. I want the best loan product, cheapest down payment, so on and so forth. So I'm going to live here for whatever it is. It was a year. I think you have to suppose about a year or so. Oh, I don't know. You can talk about that. But, let me live here for a year or two, and then let me use that to go do something else. And so it's all on strategy and what loan program, and really back to what we were talking about, your team advising you on how to get this done.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for you guys that are, if you don't have that first property, or if you have that first or second or third, and you're like, how am I going to make the fourth work? Like, that's just a simple pre-approval. Let's look at it. Let's see what your goals are. But Dexter was mentioning leveraging previous real estate
Right.
in order to qualify for the next one. And that, is where things can, get a little bit gray, if you would, in the sense
Exactly.
that there are moving parts there. And again, back to the intention, if you're buying a property straight up as an investment property, whether or not you've owned investment real estate, for previous years and report that income, which is going to be your best case scenario, because that reported rental income on the tax returns is going to allow you to qualify for more real estate versus just having to go off of straight income and not utilizing the rental
Right.
that your real estate produces. And that's always been, I've seen people do it, and it's We'll never
I've
see.
never seen anybody do that. I'm like, I just assumed everybody reported their income.
We'll see. I've never see. We'll never see the rate environment that we had. That
Right.
high twos into the
Right.
threes that we were kind of
Exactly.
touching on, and I watched people, and this was with the appreciation that we had a big swing when I first got into the business. It was people were buying condos, 3 families in Somerville, and they were buying at FHA, 3.5% down. Then they'd refinance with 20% equity into a conventional loan. That'd go buy another property, and they were just able to do it, and they were riding the appreciation.
Right,
They were
okay.
riding the rate environment.
Okay.
And again, these things play into your ability to get into the real estate. And right now, it's just a little bit different of a market because rates are higher. And I mentioned comparing, anyone's scenario to the other. Everything is different. And you have people who I have clients who just qualified by the skin of the teeth for $1 million house at 2.875. They can't buy that house today.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a whole different, the monthly payment on that. And again, it's all about monthly payment.
Say it again.
Monthly payment.
It's all about monthly payment. So the saying is, or this was like I heard years ago, you can be house rich but money poor, and so you don't want to have all your money going to this mortgage, but you got no furniture in the house, you can't eat.
It's expensive.
It's no fun, And so to your point, it does always come down to does this deal make sense? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Being in the industry, I think, for as long as I have now at this point, it's funny to say, going on 14 years and 3 kids and, whatnot. And it's, I think that the toughest thing is, or at least now, I can advise my clients based on experience.
Right.
And early on,
Right.
it was harder for me to do that because I was a 22-year-old kid out of college, and I didn't have a wife, I didn't have
You
kids, I
hadn't
didn't
lived
have
enough
housing.
yet.
I just didn't have the experience.
He's wet behind the ears.
There's a little bit of gray starting to kick in on the beard and stuff, but it's again, that's the stuff that I find helpful because I can speak
Yeah,
from
exactly.
when you can speak from experience, it gives you
husband.
truth. It gives you a little bit more clout, if you would.
Right.
Or it just come from a different place. But it's it's all good. It's
Talk about, because you did mention it earlier, we were talk offline, you talking about down payments and things like that. What are some programs that people can tap into to get down payment assistance and things of that nature?
Yeah, so down payment assistance, and again, for first-time home buyers, you work so hard to save up your money, okay? Whether it's to buy a new bicycle, whether it's to buy a new car, whether it's to buy anything, and then, to buy a house, that's the biggest thing that you're going to save for. Yeah. So it takes a while, it takes time, it takes effort to save up, and you have this pile of cash, this money that you've set aside. And for every client, that is different. Right. And it is very hard, and I always want my clients to know, listen, whether it is $5,000 that you have to work with, whether it's $500,000 that you want to work with, I'm treating all my clients the same. Right. But for those that have worked hard to save up that money, it is that much more important, because I think once you do get the house and you have that higher expense, everything's so expensive as it is, it's harder to save that money because you've spent all that time to put that money aside, and now you're jumping into the house, it's down payment, it's closing costs, whatever comes with it. The down payment assistance programs that are out there. Now, there are programs that are out there. Again, they help pay for the purchase of your home, whether it's offsetting it, a couple thousand to upwards of $30,000 to $50,000, depending on the community that you buy in, depending on your income thresholds, depending on the property. So, as you're looking, any client that comes to me, I always look for down payment assistance. I always look into the products that might benefit them if they meet certain, income thresholds. There's incentive for certain buyers, and it helps offer or give a better interest rate. So these down payment assistance programs are available through the City of Boston. There's state housing finance agencies like the Mass Housing. Right. There's Rhode Island Housing. There's Connecticut Housing, New Hampshire Housing. All of these agencies offer some form of down payment assistance. There are grants out there that you do not have to repay.
Say that again. Say what time?
Grants that you do not. It's free money.
We like grants.
So, and again, it's as the client, you're going to be online. You're going to see the grants that are available. Right. Some companies might offer different grants than other grants. We have a grant that's specific to cross country. It's the CCM Smart Start, and it's 2% of the purchase price up to $4,000 max total that we would give in down payment assistance.
exactly.
So it's money that's out there. There are, like, for instance, Mass Housing has a down payment assistance program that's not a grant, but it's a second mortgage, okay?
Okay.
And it covers the total cost of the down payment, but if you ever sell the house or refinance, you have
pay
to
that back.
pay the money back.
Right.
So there are nuances with these programs that are out there, and obviously the grants, if you can qualify them and the funds are available. I know there was a grant that was out there with Mass Housing. I think that ran out. I don't know if it re-upped, and we can check on that. So if we have information later on, we
Right.
can follow up. But every state housing agency, and I bring up other states such as
Rhode Island, you said.
Rhode Island and Connecticut, and I'm licensed in Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Maine.
Okay.
So those other pockets for the investor, Rhode Island, Providence, all those other, New Haven, all those areas,
Right.
there are so many areas that you can go out and find deals that work.
Right.
And I think one of the bigger things is again, it's just doing the due diligence, it's looking and going out there and finding, and it's just, if you can find that model that works. This
Right.
is this more so for the investor.
Exactly.
Like, you find your routine and your model that works, and you roll it out in other cities. And
Right.
it's that's on a larger scale than
Yeah,
your
exactly.
first-time buyer. But Massachusetts isn't the only place where there's real estate.
Exactly.
It's all over the country, believe it or not, and we have access to it. So
Well, and that's what we're talking about, because we've had a couple people in our group who have invested in, not in Boston, like in Attleboro and in Rhode Island
Yep.
and other places. And then, I have relationships with other people, and I'm looking at, obviously, I've inherited some things in Connecticut, New Haven, but then I'm seeing Hartford is a hot market. And I'm just like, okay, is that the next place to go and invest at? And then I was talking to Jerome the other day, and we were talking about Louisiana, so you can go do this anywhere, like you said, if the numbers work.
The numbers work.
And I think two things: the numbers work, and if you have a team in place.
yeah, long
Because
distance
it's
is
always
tough.
it's always boots on the ground. No matter where I look to invest, I'm always thinking boots on the ground. Now, can you develop a team? Of course you can. You can go out there and meet people and get referrals, and then you can build a pretty good team. But I think just not being so just Boston centric. There are other, to your point, there are other places where you can go and potentially get started. And matter of fact, I don't know if you know Jose Velney, but I think he was on our show about a year ago, and he's also at our conference that we did. He started in Springfield, so he built a portfolio like 20 properties out in Springfield, got his experience out there, and then sold that portfolio and came back. So now he's mostly in Somerville and,
Yep.
and Greater Boston area. But he started there, got his experience, and then came back, with the cash flow and appreciating things he needed in order to
Yep.
switch it over to something else.
It's there, yeah, and I mean, it's good to take advantage of it if, again, as you said, if you can roll it out. And kind of just thinking about the multifamilies and getting into, and we had a question, from the audience on the FHA, and one big thing that I see on the multifamilies, especially in this market where we have that higher rate environment, which is causing the higher payments, and we talked about minimum property standards, and there's certain things with certain, products that it comes with, and one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't really realize is there's a rule called the self-sufficiency rule with FHA, okay? And essentially what that is they want to see that 75% of the total rental income for the building covers the total mortgage payment. Okay, so if you're doing a property in...
Go slow that down, say that one more time.
Yep, so
because I know they're taking notes. I know folks out there taking notes too. So self-sufficiency is what?
Self-sufficiency through FHA, and it is 75% of the total rental income for the building, okay?
Right.
At 75%,
Must cover.
your total mortgage payment.
Okay.
Okay, so if the self-sufficiency test through FHA is not met, it does not qualify for FHA.
Okay.
So for your first-time buyers,
Oh, Vanessa, you like it? She's like, oh.
so well, that's good. I mean, and that's what we're doing.
That's what we're here for. All right, there you go. It's like, oh.
So, when you're looking at that piece of real estate and you're looking at a multifamily, now you do now have the option to go conventional with that low down
Right.
payment as a first-time buyer. You used to be able to, or had to put 15% down minimum for conventional on a two-family, and it was 25% down for 3 and 4 families for conventional.
Okay.
And now it's 5% down. Okay?
That's a
But
big difference.
still, you have to look at cash flow. Does the
Right.
deal
Yep,
work?
yep,
The rates,
yep,
the
yep.
monthly mortgage insurance that's going to come with that
Right.
as well. But all your deals, if especially if you're doing that and the self-sufficiency is only on 3 and 4 families. It is not
So
a 2-family.
two can't qualify.
2-family does not
Okay.
have self-sufficiency, so you
Okay.
don't need to meet it. So you don't have to cover, any mortgage payment. But if the property does not meet self-sufficiency, it does not qualify. So for a lot of these deals, especially in and around Boston, you think of some of the price points on these 3 and 4 families. Then you think of interest rates. You think of 3.5% down. Financing a bigger loan at higher rates,
Right.
the rents really haven't blown up to catch up and help self-sufficiency. So a lot of times these higher end or higher priced multis with FHA with a minimum down payment don't meet self-sufficiency. That doesn't mean you can't put 5, 10, 15% down, because there are still reasons one might finance with FHA.
Okay.
So
So in other words, even if you can't do self-sufficiency, that doesn't kill FHA. It means more money out of your pocket.
you might have to put more down to make the self-sufficiency
Okay, got it.
work if FHA is the only financing that you can qualify for, or that that you
Gotcha.
need to
Okay.
utilize. But again, it's all unique to the individual, and these are things that you need to know while you're looking, because if you don't see high enough rents, there's plenty of mortgage calculators that are out there right on Zillow or Redfin.
Yeah.
So you can plug in quickly and get a conservative idea on what your mortgage payment's looking like, and you just need to know what the leases are like. So if a lease agreement is in place, that's what the appraiser will use, and if there's a vacancy, they'll go off of fair market rental income.
Got it.
So being in touch with an agent who knows the market, who can pull the data and give you conservative fair market rental, you have to run your scenarios for your properties. If it's 3 units are vacant and you're buying a 4-family, you need to get 3 units at fair market rent,
Right.
whatever the beds and baths are, and you need to make sure that you're running your numbers conservatively
Correctly,
so it
right.
meets it. If you're going to tie a property up, have a home inspection, have an
Right.
appraisal come out, and the appraiser comes off and the fair market rents don't meet, self-sufficiency doesn't work now, and now you've done all this work just to get hung up. So it's a lot of due diligence, and that comes back to working with the right
Right
people
person,
so they can
right
tell
team.
you what to do on the upfront, so you're not spinning your tires and wasting your time, running into a dead end. And that can happen.
Right.
And it does happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just trying to be as ahead of all of that, as possible to give yourself the best, chance of success. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good, because you mentioned that coming over that you want to hit on self-sufficiency, and I've heard about it but didn't really understand the nuances of it.
It's just harder to meet now because of the rate environment. So it's like,
Right.
for those first-time investors where multifamilies are really, I think, the best starting place,
Yeah.
To get going, because it gives you the opportunity to take advantage of low down payment to walk in the door. And if you can get in the door, if you can fix up, do whatever it is, increase your rents, and all of a sudden now you can get out and leverage
Right.
not only the reported rental, but departing rental from a lease agreement that you're putting in place. All those things
Say that again. You said reporting, but also departing rental.
departing rental. So for lease agreements that you're putting in place, if you're occupying a single family, a condo, or a unit, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to hang on to this unit, I don't want to sell. So for instance, I don't want to sell my single family
Right.
property because I have a low rate on it.
Right.
I never will. It doesn't make sense for me. I can't
Right.
fathom it. I'll tap into equity. I'll utilize that, to do something else. But, because of the monthly payment on it, it's just,
Exactly.
you can't beat it. But leveraging, so if I wanted to go qualify for something, let's say my income on itself didn't support me buying a new piece of real estate.
Right.
If I put a lease agreement in place on my departing residence,
Got it.
that's something where,
Basically, the places you were living in, I got a lease on it, and I can report that, use that to.
yes,
Got it.
to move forward and buy your next primary and do your thing. So and again, that's knowing how to navigate through the system, how to, understand it and figure it out, and you have a plan. Like you can, some people will fly by the seat of their pants and they'll make money in good markets and they'll do things, but you really do need to have a good plan, of attack, because it's not for the faint of heart. Things can go sideways.
But what you said really brought back to remembrance what we always talk about here. You have to treat this like a business. And so as you treat like a business, you have leases in place and you have a standard operating procedure and things of that nature. And so you can run off the seat of your pants, but as you are trying to go higher and higher and do more and more things, and higher and higher is different for everybody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you got to have a portfolio of 100 properties, whatever's your highest, your goal is for you. But I think, and we've been guilty of that on some level, is because you can get lax at times, and I'll renew the lease, or I won't go up on the rents and all that. Well, if you don't go up on the rents and now you're trying to refinance and then now you're behind the eight ball because you haven't done certain things, and so it goes back to the fact that you really have to treat this as a business.
It is. You have to make on everything. You have to make those decisions, but it comes in and it makes it. It is a business, and again, every decision it comes in, and it's it's your money at the end of the day, and that's why I say to my clients, it's I can advise and I can tell you what to do, and do I have to put 20% down or what's the norm, and it's where are you comfortable? What is best for you? Can I work with that? If I can, let's work together. Do you want to work with me? Absolutely. Let's go. But again, stick to what it is that you're comfortable with. Never go, to some degree, it's like, getting out of your comfort zone is healthy. But
not too far out.
Don't go too far out, especially where you might run into a situation where you can't, retain your deposits or something of that nature. And that's why, like, waiving contingencies and dangerous. Not understanding what you're doing and just throwing in offers on real estate just because. And it's not something just to play with. It's not for the faint of heart, and it's the biggest purchase that most people will make until they sell and make the next one. So it's a huge, huge financial move that needs to be calculated.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's to me, I look at it as a duality of existence, that it's not unattainable, but you do have to be serious about it. And so I do have to treat it like a business. I do have to do my research. I do have to do my due diligence. I do have to build a team around me who can catch my blind spots, because no one knows everything. I tell people all the time, in financial services, which we are in, it's impossible for you to know everything, because it's just so many different nuances and products and programs, and then things are changing, and tax laws. And so it is that, back to this word we keep, your team is extremely important, and having the right people around you who can advise you and challenge your thinking and have you thought about it this way, or let's try this way, or let's try that, or at least can point you in the right direction, I think is so critical.
Yeah, pointing in the right direction is good. Having the good team, and anytime I am, presented with a question or something that I don't know, that I don't feel confident advising on, especially at any point for anyone, whether they're starting. Some people like to give information, even if they don't have the right information to give, versus saying, hey, let me get the information. I don't talk to the attorney or take it from the horse's mouth, because I can't give you everything. I can't speak on behalf of legal advice, and we just speak to your accountant. I don't want to speak on his behalf. I would give them a call, let them know what you're doing, let them know what you're looking to do. I'll jump on a call with you. Let's figure out.
We can learn together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. It's having the team, and it is learning, and you do pick up things. And I can sit here and talk on other professions, but that's not my forte. So I never want to speak on someone's behalf, because that's just not who I am, and that's not what I should be doing for my clients.
Yeah. Any more questions out here? Because Vanessa said, ooh, back about 30 seconds ago, so I want to see if you had a question off that ooh. How much time do we have left? Because I don't, my phone was taken from me. We got 5 more minutes. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. John, any parting tips that you can give to us, either as a first-time home buyer or as investors? What would you leave us with?
If you are serious about buying, you need to get in touch with a mortgage professional.
Okay.
You need to fill out an application. You need to get pre-approved. You need to figure out your finances, figure out what funds you have available, to put into the transaction. If you have other funds that are available, but you're not sure how to access them, it's making and taking the necessary steps now to prepare yourself to go out and to look. And it's not something where, you can kind of go into it half-heartedly, because you're going to get the same in the form of that result. You need to be invested in going out there. And again, getting in touch, get pre-approved, have your credit pulled. If the credit's not in a good position, let's work on it. Let's get it up. It might take you 6 months to find a house. If I can bring you from a 680 to a 715, that might be a quarter to 3/8 difference in rate, which is cash flow, interest, you name it. So it's really just doing your due diligence, getting yourself set up, getting pre-approved, and being ready. Understanding monthly payments, understanding cash out of pocket, understanding rate environment, how interest rates work. I try not to get too deep into the rate environment, but for some clients and some people, they like to understand it. And some people, they solely focus on rate. And I don't like to make my deals about rate, because in certain environments, like you said, we're going to refinance in 6 to 8 months. Anyone who buys right now, because they're going to be benefited from a lower rate environment. So Get connected with someone you know and trust and that you want to work with, and get pre-approved, and just be ready. And at some point, you have to commit to the idea, to putting that offer in. That can be tough for people, is writing a $1,000 check. And that's just another, in my opinion, is another small step towards the final end result.
Got it.
You know, and it's just, you got to commit to it.
I have a question. How long are pre-approval letters?
It's a great question. So pre-approval letters are good for 120 days,
120 days, okay.
which is what the credit
4 months.
report is. So it lasts as long as your credit report does last for. In the event you don't find something within that 120-day
re-up it.
time frame, you just say, hey, John, like, or if you can't, even if it was, 200 days later, whatever it is, you would say, hey, I found this house. Hey, listen, credit report's expired. Do I have your permission to update and repull?
Okay, right.
Click of the button, credit's refreshed, assuming scores don't drop,
You haven't done nothing
additional
crazy.
debt, you didn't buy a Ferrari, or something like
going
that.
crazy, yeah.
And it happens, believe it or not, it does
happens.
happen.
It
Before
happens.
closing, people would get a new BMW, a $500 payment. It doesn't work now. We have to more down payment, shop for insurance.
That's a whole nother class. It's like, don't touch it. Once you put, don't do anything.
Yeah. So and again, you'll get it's we've seen it all.
Well, tell us how we can stay in contact with you. I think your information should pop up on the screen. We did put John's card up
Absolutely.
there.
Email and cell phone are always best. My cell phone's 857-891-1113. And then the best email for me would be my first dot last name, so john.folino@ccm.com.
And we'll get you guys that information if you missed that. And also, I forgot to actually, your information is on screen. So those who are out there and those of you who are here, I can get you John's information. He has an electronic, he has his phone stuff, so you can get that. But John has given us tremendous amount of value tonight, hasn't he? Some really
Thank you,
good
guys.
stuff.
Thanks for
So I don't know what you people did out there in Digitalville, but on TV land, but we got some good information here. Just remind you, save the date for the Real Estate Wealth Creation Summit. Actually, John was one of the sponsors of that last year. So hopefully maybe I can pull him away from his family this year and get him to come and hang out with us. But John was one of the sponsors of the event last year, and so we thank you for that. And then I think that is pretty much about it for tonight. Next month, I don't even know what's the second Tuesday of next month. What date is that? Anybody got their phone there?
Second Tuesday of February?
Yes.
13th.
13th? Yep, so our next meeting will be on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day.
Good reminder. Always helping out.
And I don't know exactly who our guest is yet. I'm still working on a couple of people. So, but just to let you know that our next show will be on February 13th. We talked about April 27th. And then the last thing I'll leave you with, we are meeting at the New England Christian Television Network for free. And so what I would encourage you to do is to make a donation, sow a seed into that ministry and into that organization, because that allows us to continue to do what we do. All right, see you guys on February 13th, right? February 13th. If you have any questions in the meantime, obviously you have our email address, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Good job, man.